Alice here, and I'm with
Lisa Strange from the Taylor County Extension Service, University of Florida. I am the Agriculture and the Natural Resource Extension Agent and the Master Gardener Coordinator. Alice, today I would like to share with everyone what I wish I had known when starting propagation and using seed blocking, cutting, and the different types of propagation. My barriers of what happened.
That's something I wish I'd known when I started gardening. You have a special area.
Yes, it's underneath a pole barn. I've built a little area with some tables and in the shade. I'd like to take you back into the potting area that I've created. It just makes it more comfortable. Things are easy reach, like in a kitchen, the way it's designed and the orientation. So I have two tables. I can turn and use one side, doing one project, and turn and use the other side. And a little greenhouse is right behind. If you're going to do some planting seeds in quantity, this is my first experience of it. And what I wish I had known in the last few weeks doing this, that I have gotten everything together to write it down in a list, like a recipe of what I actually needed. I started out, I thought, a small soil blocker would be just fine. I found that it made them teeny tiny blocks that fall apart easily. And then you have to pot these up into a larger size. So I got a larger one. It was a couple weeks later. This is a 1.5 inch size block.
And what size was the first block?
I think they're a 1/4 inch. And then I find out you can put these, once they get to be about 1 inch, 2 inch tall, and they're not ready to go out into the garden, you can up them into a larger soil block. And this is a 2-inch soil block.
This sounds really interesting. You're going to have to tell us what soil blocking is all about.
It is for if you're going to do a lot of seeds. Let me get my tray. This is a 1.5 inch soil block. And as you see, they make individual. As you press down onto the instrument, you press down and the soil chops out this little block.
Do you have any soil where you could actually show us?
Yes, I'd like to show how light. It's like touching a feather. It's so light. The mixture does provide a nice support system for a seed to get started. I found when I mixed it the first time with my homemade mixture, it was just too heavy. It was too thick. It was bark in there, and so they didn't germinate. As in this, I've found these are zinnia seeds. Zinnias like to be very warm, and I did this February 2nd is what I have on the label. I didn't have a heating pad, which I now know that helps a lot when you have these heating pads that are underneath that keeps the soil warmer, better environment for a seed for germinating.
Now, would you need a heating pad if you started in the late spring, or is this because of starting seeds in January, February?
It would still help if you had a heating pad. It would speed up the process. They would germinate faster. I do have a heating pad that it fits the size of a tray.
And it looks like it has all kinds of instructions on it.
It does, and I did not read it, and that's what I wish I had done. These are nasturtiums underneath it that have been in the warmth, and they germinated in 3 days. I just used that seed starter mix in cell packs. I didn't make the soil blocks like this.
So you just
pressed it in, and the seeds are different sizes, and it depends on the depth that you plant them. Most seeds that are teeny tiny, you don't even want to cover them. You just barely press it, cover.
You planted these, and you put the warmer underneath it.
Yes.
Down here, and they're on top of it.
And in 3 days, they started to break ground.
And so how long now have these been growing?
They were planted March 11th.
It's a good idea to mark your date.
Absolutely.
And what it is.
Because it gives you a guideline. If something happens, they didn't germinate, the date that you put it in. And that's how I've discovered I was planting too deep. These were planted in February 2nd. And you see there is nothing. They are now starting to come up.
What are the
mammoth sunflower? For the Taylor County Gala Garden Days, we are doing second Saturday of each month. We feature certain seeds that we give away and sell, and sunflowers be coming up.
So these are an example of the soil block.
This is the seed starter soil.
It is the seed starter soil.
But no heating pad. It gets
Okay.
pretty cold in here. This is a drafty room. I came in here sometimes and it was 39 degrees at night. I feel that this is the result of not being warm enough to trigger a seed to germinate.
Now,
Here's
is that
starting.
one
Yes.
that's starting?
Yes, here's one starting.
And what is this above it?
These are grow lights. Again, I wish I had known. I went to a big box store and bought what they had on the shelf. And I have since learned about the amount of light, the candles that it needs, and it was way too high. So I lowered these lights, and I think that attributed to triggering senses in the seed to grow.
So these nasturtiums, in addition to having a heating pad, they
And light.
also have, you added grow light.
Yes.
What is this down here?
This also is sunflower. And as you see, it has a green hue to it, like a fungus growing on top. I think I have overwatered. And when you do soil blocking, you don't water from the top. You're supposed to put water from the bottom and let the soil block itself absorb the water from underneath. Encourages the roots to go deep.
And you now have some sunflowers that have sprouted.
And see, this was planted February the 23rd. Today is March 23rd, and it's been 4 weeks. And
Okay.
nothing. I just put too much soil on top. These were planted too deep.
I noticed you have the packet.
I wish I had done this. Read the information on the back of your seed. That information is there for the best results. It gives the zone that you're in and what months to plant the seeds. It also provides you with the depth of the seed. And sometimes they're labeled with codes that, like, capital letters that let you know if they have been coated or treated with anything that would prevent or resistant to disease like Fusarium wilt rot or any soil bacteria-borne diseases. But has a date of the seed. Most seeds are very viable, but seeds that you buy off a shelf like this are good for 1 year to 2 years.
When you just now, some are sprouting. It's been 4 weeks, and we compared them to the nasturtiums, which sprouted in 3 days. You said too deep. Tell me what you mean by too deep. How deep did you plant it? What should you have done?
When I put the soil on top of this, I really put it heavy on top of the seed and I pressed it in. I can see the mounds of just too much soil. Say a begonia seed are teeny tiny little, minute little pearls. You just want to drop them on the top and sprinkle that soil mixture over it very lightly, or you just press it a little bit and water so that it would adhere to the soil.
Planting instructions say to cover with 1 inch of soil.
These sunflower seeds are a little larger and they might be 1/4 to 1/2 inch in size, maybe the size of your thumb. You don't want to plant the seed any deeper than that. Lesson learned: the depth of planting, reading the instructions on the particular soil packet for the specific seed. When you're doing soil blocking, the right moisture content to form a solid block, and proper watering in soil blocking in between the rows and let it absorb from underneath, not water on top. Versus planting seed in a cell pack, you can water on top because they have holes underneath where they will drain. They have trays that are solid just for soil blocking. I wish that I had purchased 10 or 15, just have the equipment here prior to do this. But I started soil blocking and I purchased 4, and I used 4 of these trays up in that one event, and I needed more. The same with the soil. One of those bags will make 2 trays, 12 quarts.
It makes
2 trays of 1.5 inch soil block. Let's go back to this. Let me get a tray to put it in.
Here's the tray that you purchased with soil blocking. Where did you find these?
I ordered these from Johnny's Seeds, where I'm not promoting companies, but I have ordered from Johnny's before in past years and I've had good luck. There is another company, Urban Farmer, who carries gardening tools and equipment along with seeds. But these trays and my soil blockers came from Johnny Seeds.
Let's just take a up close look.
Groundworks, it's a seed starter mix as well. What I have found, and I didn't know, but you don't really know until you experiment and experience it. They say that your potting seed mix should be moist. The moisture content, it's important because it'll be compact enough to hold in your soil blocker. You want to be able to squeeze water where it drips out. That's how moist it should be to fit into your soil blocker. Pack, pack, pack. And you just squeeze this out and it makes the soil blocks. This is not moist enough as they're falling apart.
While you're mixing your soil, could you tell us a little bit about the soil and any additives that you've put into this mix to start your seed?
I have found, and this is what I wish I had known until I become a little more knowledgeable and comfortable with the soil mix of making your own, I would recommend that you actually purchase seed propagating soil. Now, we're not promoting brands, but this is a jiffy mix of peat moss, some vermiculite, and some perlite. It's a seed starter mix. It's very light. It has some little pieces light and vermiculite in it.
And those are for drainage and moisture retention?
Vermiculite is a rock that was heated to over 2,000 degrees. When it heats, it swells, looks like a little accordion, and that holds moisture. It's white, little pearls. It was a rock that was heated, and it forms popcorn-like balls that are better for aeration. I'm packing this quite tightly so that it will hold its shape.
Okay.
A tray with
No holes in the bottom.
you take the handle, you just squeeze it, the little indentations. It's a lot less expensive, I think, than having to buy the trays with the cell. They break down over time and deteriorate, whereas you can pluck these right into the ground.
The next step, you were going to transplant.
Another thing I have learned, what just happened, I was carrying this out and it broke on the corners. This is brand new and it gave way. They deteriorate and you can only use them so many years. That's why I am sold on soil blocking. This is like looking nice and healthy. It's got nice white roots. That's an indicator of a healthy root. This might be a little big, this soil block. I would be taking from the tiny soil block, and this is what we would transplant into the 2-inch soil block. This is not going to work because it's so much bigger. But that's the principle. It would normally be a tiny soil, one of this size, and I would take this out and transplant it into a 2-inch.
How would you take them out?
You need to use a spoon, a popsicle stick, or a pencil, anything to help. You want to not disturb roots because the roots are what are absorbing the moisture and the nutrients for that seedling. Break off enough roots, it's not going to have enough support system. The seed of a nasturtium that broke open, that's a good size. I planted that a little deeper in these cell packs.
That size seed, or would you use an inch and a half?
I know.
Okay.
This makes the indentation. When you make the soil block, it makes an indentation for where the seed will go. It makes it a little easier and fast.
So you don't have to worry about the...
You do. Sometimes that's where the different size soil blocks come in. And for a very teeny tiny seed, you would use this smaller one that has very small indentations.
What would be an example of a teeny tiny seed? What plant?
Begonias, geranium, most of your vegetables, tomato seeds. They can all get started with this. The end of a pin head, that's a tiny seed.
And with the inch and a half block, what kind of plant?
A pumpkin seed, that's a little larger. The zinnia seed, nasturtiums were large enough. Peppers, bell peppers, hot peppers are large enough to go in a 1.5.
And for a 2-inch that you got?
2-inch, I'm learning, but I don't think I would start a seed in a 2-inch. The 2-inch would be for a step up from a tiny seed.
When the seedling gets up 1 inch?
Then I will take that block and put it into a 2-inch block.
Lisa, what advice would you give a new gardener or someone like myself who never got into propagating from seed and just a little bit nervous about doing seed propagation? What advice would you give us?
First of all, make a list. You know you're going to need seed starter, soil mixture. Purchase it from a bag already mixed up. It's sterile, the pH is right. Get some trays, solid. If you're going to do soil blocks, you need trays. You could also use kitchen or cat litter boxes with shallow sides. I'm trying to help to be frugal about this in starting out to see if this is what you want to do. And then use your soil mixture. Whatever seed you're going to be planting, read the back of it. It is so important, and it tells you everything is different of the depth requirements. You can't use a heating pad like we would use around our neck. You need to use these heating pads. If you can afford that, get one or two to start out, and you can see a difference of the germination time frame.
And where do you buy those?
Johnny Seeds has them, but on the internet, you can find them all different sizes and quantities. When you're first starting out, you want to get a few trays, get your pre-bagged potting mix, get your seeds, and read the instructions of planting, and keep them moist. Have a mister. And if you're doing seed blocking, make sure you water from the bottom, not the top, because you want the water to be absorbed from the root system to make it healthy and strong. I noticed from top watering, if it's watering too much, you get an algae growing on the top.
What about a grow light? Do you need to invest in one of those?
If you have a place where, that you can get full on lights, at least 8 to 12 hours a day of light, use that. If not, you should go with a grow light, and you keep them down close when the seeds haven't germinated yet, within 3-4 inches. And then as they germinate, raise the height of the grow light.
And the grow lights?
I got those at a big box store.
Just look around.
But you can order them. There's all kinds of grow lights and shelving.
You said even 12 hours of light?
It needs to be direct light for seedling to germinate.
If you have good 8 hours of direct sunlight. And to boost it, if you have a
grow light, to 12 hours.
Is there anything else?
Don't plant too deep. That is probably the number one reason for low germination rates. Seed is too deep.
This has been so helpful.
It's more of an experience, not expertise in the soil blocking.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And thanks to Lisa for the gardening tips. And please subscribe at Garden Roll.